Let's talk about this market because we have seen the Tokyo Stock Exchange REIT index falling about 3% in the past year, despite the fact that the TOPIX has outperformed double-digit gains. So what's your stance on this market?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, clearly Japanese equities have had a very strong run generally, helped probably by a slight weakening on the yen and a lot of flow coming into the marketplace, particularly specifically on the real estate side. We've seen a lot of cash coming into the direct market, with yields being fairly low, particularly in the likes of Tokyo office, etc. And that's clearly having a bit of an impact on the REIT side. With the reduction in the equity side that you've just mentioned and the reduction in performance.
Does the BOJ's buying of REITs concern you? Its impact, could it distort the prices?
I think in situations such as this, where you've had deflation for such a long time, unusual policies such as those followed by the BOJ can have very helpful implications for the market, but at the same time they can have unknown implications. So there is I suppose, theoretical risk that it can certainly have unusual impact on the marketplace, as it can with any monetary policy. But at the same time, the BOJ has been doing a lot of other things recently. For example, with regards to the yield control within the curve, and the fact that they've been very willing to use that and they've been very clear on that has also been helpful for markets. So it probably works both ways.
Do you see the BOJ eventually having to raise that target of anchoring the 10-year yield to 0% just because we're seeing soaring global yields?
I think there are a significant number of moving aspects here because if you look at Japan, you have political stability, you have a small but reasonable economic growth, a lot of interest in Japan at the moment generally, and a slightly weakening yen. Plus, on top of that, you have significant geopolitical aspects that one needs to consider. US impact, potential volatility, political volatility in Europe. And all of those put together could impact and will impact the monetary policy decisions that the BOJ makes.
So will it eventually have to raise the 10-year yield target?
I think it's very difficult to answer, and I think actually that's only one of a number of policies that both the BOJ and Abe-san's government are following. In fact, if you look at the conference today, we've been focusing not only on the BOJ policy, so not only on monetary policy and on the potential fiscal policy, but we've also been looking at the third arrow. So changes that can be made within, for example, the structural element of employment within Japanese society and other elements that can have a very big impact within the economy.
You were talking about these geopolitical uncertainties all across the world, but given how we have seen now Prime Minister Abe just potentially becoming the longest serving prime minister here in Japan with its unprecedented third term, does that mean that we are expecting less volatility, at least when it comes to the Japanese scene?
I think what that provides is clarity of tenure from a political perspective, first of all. And then you then put that together with what the FSA has been doing on the ground with regards to the regulatory environment and a lot of the other discussions that large financial institutions are having here. And I think it provides a sense of stability within Japan. And particularly when you're here and when you're working on the ground in Tokyo and you're meeting people and you're listening to what they're talking about, there is a real sense that things are moving forward in Japan, albeit slowly but surely. That said, the big issue here is that ultimately there are many political factors outside of Japan at play that could impact the yen, that could impact how investors allocate capital. And that could be from French elections to something that happens in the US to, of course, perhaps something in North Korea.
A key for Abenomics has been relying on a weakening yen. Have you seen dollar yen peak out already? I mean, because we are seeing broader gains with the dollar, but the Japanese yen pairing losses, and it's unchanged at the moment. Where is the dollar yen headed?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it's always, it's something that's been very volatile over the last year. There were significant gains in Q4 last year, leading to, of course, BOJ action in the early part of this year. I think one of the key issues over this year is while sentiment may be suggesting a weaker yen, actually it will also be very dependent on those geopolitical factors, because if it's risk off, then that can have a very big impact on the yen.